Oops. Okay, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you're, up and around, and we're going to go through the, Tai Chi Broadsword. That was my double swords that fell over. So anyways, we're going to go through this. So some of you have been learning the sequence. Hopefully you can follow. Sometimes we don't get to go through the whole form. So I think today we're going to just kind of run through some of the sequence, and we'll, maybe if there's any postures that you want to review, you can send us a chat, and then we'll kind of review some of those things. Okay, so we always start off in this stance that's parallel shoulder width, and we open the form. And we sit back, turn the corner, step up, grasp the sparrow's tail. Sit back, turn. We have to bring this foot over here and push. Sit back, switch hands, push the sword forward in an empty stance, and then slice to the right, left, and then to the right. So now this is to the corner. Then we chop down, and we go right to the corner. We sit back, and we push the sword forward into the corner. Then we make about face, 180-degree turn to the back. Then we're going to uppercut back to the same corner. Sit back, turn. It's almost like carry tiger to the mountain. And then we step out and we stab with the palm like against here, blade facing up, okay? So we stab like this, and we turn. 1, 2, 3. So when you learn, this is a little tricky for some people. The simplest way to do that is drop your wrists. So if you look at my wrist, I rolled it over, and when I do this, it takes you in that direction easier. And then we're here. So that's how you get the blade like that. And then you poke to the corner. We step up by kicking up, switch the feet, and poke down. So that's the beginning of the form until we slice and head back in this direction. And we stab low, take it over the top, and chop down. Okay, then we back to center. But now we're working parallel to the mirror. Now we're going to turn, and this is where we stand on one leg. Sit back, poke, heel kick, and push forward. Okay, let me review that again, just in case someone's following that, because when we run through it completely, then you're going to be sitting there watching. So let's do that again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So this is opening the form, similar to our grasp the sparrow's tail in the maneuver of the hands, and then we turn all the way around, stroke down, push forward, sit back, and we're like this. We grab the sword in the right hand, we bring this hand to the back of the sword, the spine of the sword, and then we're going to take it across like this to the left. We move to here, and we go to the right. So you should be right into that mirror at this point. Now we're here to the corner, and then we poke forward like this. We sit back to this neutral position. I call this neutral, the elbow down, turn to the vertical. So, you pass through this vertical position and then step through to push the sword forward. So that's right on your center line, over the knee. And then we sit back and turn, take it over the head. I like to take it straight over the head so you can keep that line tracking so it's pretty close to the body, close to the center line. Now I'm going to turn, rotate around to this cross scissor stance, and we're like this. Okay? Then I'm going to step out. I open the stance, and I shift the weight, and stab. I drop my wrist, relax. You can't drop your wrist if you're holding the sword too tight. You're holding it really tight, the wrist doesn't bend. So you have to release your wrist and then flip it over. Now you notice it's going to be resting on this part of the arm, and I'm going to turn. And then I head in this direction by poking with the sword, with the blade sharp side up. Then I'm going to turn back to the opposite corner, lift up. So that goes with the front leg, moving back leg moving forward, and then I switch feet. And I poke down. Now I sit back, that shifting of the weight, just like we do in Tai Chi. We turn, we go over the head, and come down. Now I poke down, so look, it's 45 degrees, and then I bring the sword right up against the upper part of my arm, and I come to center. I lift my arm to take it up, but I actually don't go over the head here. I take it to here. And then as I lean forward, it tracks through the center of the head. So you are going over, but you don't bring it to here over the head and then go like that, because then it really doesn't align and meet at the right time. You want to take it, it comes a little bit in front of your face, because I'm not in my stance yet. It comes, you're in your stance when you go forward. So that's kind of subtle, but it's a better transition. Then we go like this. 1, 2, 3, step up, and 4. Okay, so then if you can get to that point, that's a pretty good place to practice up to, because the next section is going to take you to a series of movements that track in this line. And that would be a good place to sort of build the next series or the next section of the form. And then you go up and you push forward. And this is what I mean by tracking in this line, because all of these movements end up going forward, over the top, undercut, back to center, turning to here, and then back to neutral, and we're here. So that essentially is another piece of the form. That side and that side quite similar, with a few sort of add-in motions that will give you that whole linear side of the form. Okay, so if we're in the position, we chop like this and we come up. So this is the switch over that we had done earlier. I don't know if you recognize that. Now we turn like this, and we're in this forward stance. We sit back. We lift the knee like the golden cockroach stands on one leg, and then we turn it to a heel kick and an upper neutral cut position. Take it to the side, and we're going to step forward. Okay, once we're here, we sit back. So this is a common turnaround and a slice. And this is stabbing off the back leg, because we have to turn, go over the top, undercut or uppercut, and turn to this position. Flip it over, horse stance. Back to center. And we push the sword again. Okay, now we're going to sit back. Here's that waist cut. Turn. Here's that stab off the back leg. Here's this over the top. Here's that undercut or uppercut. And then we go like this. Now this is different. Before we went through this horse stance. Now we have that big circle. And then we come down and poke again. And then we're going to sit back to neutral again and then push the sword forward. Okay? And then we're going to sit back. Now this is a little bit different. 1. There's your sliding half step to a downward poke. Again with the back leg. So that's the section that's going to be another section that you can work on as a grouping. See, the important thing is when you're learning this sequence, if you can't group those sections together, you're going to mix it all up. You're going to mix it all up because of those positions. There's so many similar movements that you have to memorize them in that specific order. If you don't memorize in a specific order, you're going to lose track of where you are. And it's very easy for that to happen, sort of like going to the long form in Tai Chi. You get to cloud hands, or you get to what's the next section of the form. It's really, it's pretty clear cut when you know the form. But if you don't know the form, it seems like, you're there and you forget, you lose your place. So a lot of times when you're first learning a sequence, you don't have the ability to go right into the middle of the form and say, this is where I go from here. You have to go to the beginning and you go through it, you go to the beginning and you go through it. Then you can cycle through it because that's how you've been learning it. And the confusing part is you might hit a point like this and then you don't really know where you are. Or you might hit a point like this and you don't know where you are. But after a while, you start to recognize, the similarities. So if we're here, and then I go like this, and switch, and poke. Then the next one is the first time you do this. So it only happens once. That's the standing on one leg and the push. So once you get to that, you get through that, that's when the two sections happen in this linear fashion. So you're here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that piece is actually something that happens on both sides. Now this is a change up. On the other side, we do the big circle, and then we sit back, and then we push the sword again. So see what I mean? When we push the sword so many times. How do you remember where it is? It's memorized by the sequence. Okay, then we're here. 1, here's this waist cut. So the waist cut distinguishes those pieces because that's going to take you to the opposite side. So where we did this earlier, we're going to not do that. We're going to do this. That's an uppercut. So that's doing this. And then once we get to there, we bring it down and we step forward and poke. Okay. Wait a second. That was wrong. When we go like this, we have to push the sword forward. So see, it's easy to lose your place, especially if you're doing it slowly. And then here, we have that movement. So after the big circle, say, okay, and we poke forward, we're going to push the sword forward again, and that gets us here. Okay, instead of cutting around, we have this movement with the half step to take us back into this position. Now this is where we make the changes because the next section of the form will bring us into this series of movements, which is pretty complicated. All right, so once we're here and we sit back, so you see the starting position, putting it on your forehead, not your forehead, your upper arm is going to take you over your head. So just like when we did this earlier, you put it on your arm and you go over there. When you're here, it goes here, and then it goes above, and then we make the turn while it's still over your head, and then come down the right side, and then slice across the waist, go over the top, over the left shoulder, come down to the hip. Now we're going to wrap the sword around. Turn the body, lift the arms like fan through the back, chop down, flip it to here. And this goes to here. So there's your vertical sword position. It looks like that. So it's supported over here, you see. And then you would do your sliding step. 1, 2, and then you would cross step 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, step back, 3. Your left foot is forward. Bring it to here. You have this position that looks like that from the side, and you're going to go over the top and circle around. Now we sit back to neutral, and we're going to repeat that series. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Now your left foot is forward, you poke down. We sit back, we reverse the stance, turn toward this direction, that's turning to your left, then we do a waist cut, and then we do this again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and then we poke shoulder level. And then we turn and we go into that back corner and we stab down. Cross stance, and then we're going to lift up like this, bring the sword to here, and then spin. And then chop. And poke. And then sit back. Okay. So that piece is pretty flowery. It's got a lot of agility footwork in it. I actually did that series maybe a month ago, or it's in one of the videos. I don't know if it's been labeled, but the thing is that section was in there. So essentially those movements are done 3 times. So when we're in a position where we're, say, like this, and we sit back, when we turn, that's the leg cut. Now, when you take the sword and bring it over the head, now I'm breaking this down into sections so that it's hand movements and leg movements and hand movements, because you can't realize what the hands are doing. Now I'm going like this, and then I'm going to go like this. Then I break it down to here. So essentially, you go from here, and you're back to there, making a transition that's like this. So the circle is created by your spin. So in other words, when I'm here, I'm going to spin. I get it back to here, and I'm going to spin. Okay. So that's the coordination, the mechanics. But you have to change direction. So if I'm here, I'm going to end up over there. So how do I do that? I go like this. 1, 2, and I stop here. I bring it over the head, and I step back to here. So you see what happened? I'm here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that gets you into that position. Now you've changed directions. And once I'm in this direction, I set my foot position like this. Because this is going to go over the top and over the top. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So what you have to do from here is cross the arms, uncross the arms, and drop it in. You see what we're doing? 1, 2. Now, this is something I brought up in the other class. Don't step right in front of you and stick the sword between your legs, because you're not going to get it out. What you need to do is sidestep or step to the side a little, avoid that line of the sword, and then come over the top. See? So that's the motion. Now you might have to practice out, because you just have to track this line. It's a vertical circle. So I'm here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm back to neutral. So then that happens again. I go like this. 1, there's the first one. 2, and then I'm back here. And then we're going to circle around. We don't make a full circle. We actually end up facing this direction. And then we're here. And then we poke. And then we turn, adjust this foot, take us to that corner with the toe, but our body is going that way. And then I take the sword, put it over here, and I'm going to spin and chop down. And poke. So that's essentially that section of the form. Once you get the spin, now you're in that position, and then you move on from there. So you can see that once you poke, you would go up, and then you would push forward and continue on. So there's a lot of pieces in the form that you have to kind of build before you can complete the whole sequence. So that gets a little bit tricky. Okay. Now when we're here and we sit back, this is the diagonal flying movements, and this is the chicken nodding its head. Or you look at a pigeon. I don't know if you've been to the Boston Garden. You see pigeons, they kind of have their head going like this. Well, that's what that reminds me of, because I used to see these birds walking around like that, nodding their head. So that's what a chicken nodding its head is. They're kind of pecking. So that's the footwork. It takes a little bit of a coordination where you're going like this, and then you're going to step, 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 step. So I think that is kind of the ultimate upper-lower coordination, because if you don't get that relationship going where the elbows and the knees and the feet work together, it doesn't look, it looks a little bit awkward. But when you do it right, it actually looks like a pretty nice move. So when you're in the diagonal flying, remember diagonal flying, always bring the hand on top, right? So you see what I do there with the footwork is I lift my foot up and I switch. Lift it up, and you have to have a soft landing. Don't like slap your foot on the ground and make it too, don't step like this. That's too abrupt. Tai Chi should be agile, it should be soft, and it should be controlled. So the timing between the movements has to be picked up as a strategy. So your joints and position should be as connected and as fluid as possible. And then we sit back, and here's the second time we do this. Push, and here's the chop to the neck. Okay, now here we do this again. That happened earlier on the form, and then we came up like this, and we're going to do the second time, or the fourth time we did the diagonal flying. Yeah, diagonal flying happens quite a few times. Even at the end, it starts to show up. Okay, now we go back to neutral. We get that arm position like we did earlier, and we step and poke. Okay, so once we get into that position, neutral, step. So this is going in this direction. Okay, then we sit back, and we take the sword and we cut to the right. Then we switch to the left hand, and we cut to the left. We switch to the right hand and cut to the right. Then we chop down the middle. This is where we started from. And we step out and poke low. So that's, the other one was there. And we chop down, and we poke. Sit back, a setup. Cut to the waist. Get the hand and the sword above your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually going under the leg, and then flick it, take the sword out, take it over the top, and chop down. Here's your spin around, and we're here. Okay, so when you do the spin around, okay, we want to spin around. Say I did this on this. I'm going to show you the mirror image by spinning around and then take it over the head. So if you're doing it from behind, this is the way you would look. So you actually went through a series of movements before that part where you did all those spins that had all of these movements in it until we get to here, and we take it over the top and brush knee, and we bring it to here. And typically, because I switch directions, you're going to see me closing toward you. So I would have been in this position if we were doing the form correctly in a direction, and you would track like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, instead of doing this, which is the normal movement, you would be here: 1, 2. So you see that section that was close to what we did earlier? So this is here. What we did earlier was to make it, get it into this position. But in this case, we're going to go here to the diagonal flying. We get to here, 1. So that's just, this is up to here is a repeat. So from here, instead of going back to the side, we step up and we do this brush knee, and we close with a brush knee, turning 1, 2, 3 as a closing. Okay, so you see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we step up. So those are the ending movements, and then you would end up coming toward here. So these movements actually would be happening on this side. If you were doing the form, typically you would be on this side. And then you would cross over, lift up, and here's your brush knee, and then this hand goes here, and then you would take this, do the circular movement over here, and then this would be pushing. We bring it to here, we turn toward the front, shift the weight, do a salute, and close. And then that's the end of the form. So there's a lot of groupings of movements that you can practice, and I think if you already know it, review those anyways, because I'm sure you can pick up some nuances or some timing or maybe some positions that you may have, might have overlooked. So that's really what happens when you're first learning it. When you're watching, you only can pick up so much information until you go through it, and then that information starts to register, and then you start to clarify whether it's the timing, the positioning, all of the stuff that's happening. Doing something like this does take a lot more coordination, because now you added an extension of your body. So with that, if you want to go through the whole sequence, it's in the videos. It's one of the ways to do it. But focus on a section. That's the best way to achieve. And then even within the section, work on a maneuver, a transition that will help you get through. And once you've got the movement sort of in your system, it starts to happen a lot more automatically. So listen, what time is it?
Right now it's 10:46, 1 minute past.
Okay, so on that note, review it, thumbs up, subscribe to YouTube, and hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.